This church was built in 1858, and actually this is the Buxton Mission. This was the heart of the settlement. So when they came, everyone received 50 acres, and they were charged $2.50 an acre, and you had 10 years to pay it off. Wow. But as a community, they would come and help you clear your 50 acres and help you build your home. Because he didn't want the blacks living in shacks and shanties. He knew that they could aspire to more than that. And he wanted to dispel those myths, you know, in the outlying area that, yes, look what they can do, you know, given those same opportunities as whites.
Which also included receiving a good education. And while most slaves were denied that right for years, Buxton was determined to have the best schools possible.
So Shannon, what's this?
This is the third school that was built here in the settlement, built in 1861, and it was built because of the overcrowding of the other schools that were at the other end of the settlement, because the people still had to walk down from here to go to the schools, the church, the businesses down there. So this one was built here for the people at this end of the settlement. And it is the only school that remains in Canada that was built by former fugitive slaves that's still existing as a school.
Wow.
So it's something that we are very proud of.
Yeah.
You know, it's just... yeah, just one of those beautiful, beautiful buildings.
So
It looks like a church, doesn't it?
It does.
Yes, yeah.
So the other schools, they're no longer standing?
No, they're not.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So what grades would be in here?
Grades 1 to 10 were taught here at one time, and then 1 to 8. So there were 100 students with one teacher here at one time, if you can imagine. And this is a spelling book. From 1879.
I'm not very good at spelling.
Well, this is a very typical, do you remember spelling dictation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a very typical, if I can find it. Oh, here it is. Very typical sentence for spelling dictation. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. These men, Republicans from civility, who publish rhetorical panegyrics on massacres, and who reduced plunder to a system of ethics, are as ready to preach slavery as anarchy.
Wow.
Grade 4 in 1879.
Wow. And people said that black people weren't very smart back then.
But this shows you the quality of education that was being taught here. Oh, sure.
It's knowing these stories and others, like the determination of slaves such as Harry K. Thomas, who tried to escape 13 times, that makes the historic struggle of freedom and the present-day accomplishments so much more meaningful.
The first time that he escaped, he was whipped. You know, the next time he was whipped, they would pour salt. The next time he was whipped, salt, they'd grind a corn cob into his wounds. You know, they broke a 2x4 over his back. They dragged him behind a horse 2.5 miles. But because he was a healthy slave, the master would bring his personal physician and would, you know, talk while, giving him treatment. You know, I'm going to use a eucalyptus, I'm going to do this. So by the time Harry arrived here, he was able to treat some of the people in the settlement just by listening to what this doctor was saying he was doing. You know, he was sort of taking it all in.
So on that brisk evening in Chicago on November 4th, 2008, when a black family stepped forward, the patriarch, now the President of the United States of America, they didn't just represent themselves that night, but also the millions of families who were separated at the height of slavery. The original slaves who endured the rough journey across the ocean in little bunkers, and those freed slaves who risked their lives fighting in the Civil War so that slavery would finally be abolished, all for the sake of freedom. But as author and poet George Eliot Clark says, Barack Obama's presidency should be seen as a milestone.
And why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you to take a most sacred oath.
Not as the end.
There's still more to be done, because what we need to be able to do is to ensure that everyone who has the talent and the ability can rise to fulfill whatever position he or she is capable of filling. And I do not believe that we have achieved that yet.
One way historian Reverend Denise Gillard thinks we can move closer to that end is by teaching the next generation the historic role all Canadians played in making these events possible.
And once we as Canadians begin to understand how our stories work themselves out, we can make a difference in our communities, in our churches, in our schools, in our politics.
Today, Buxton is still home to many descendants of the original 15 slaves and those that came after. And while the population has dwindled over the years, the stories of the past still float in the wind, reminding a younger generation of how far we have come and how far we still must go.
I feel that my ancestors went through a struggle for me to achieve anything that I want to become in the future.
Everyone should be treated equally, no matter what their color is, and everybody has a unique way to do something.
I feel bad because people were slaves and they were judged by their skin color.
But what about the future? How do these grade 5 students feel about this historical moment in history?
Made me feel really good because if he went after what he wanted to do, then I could go after what I want to do.
If you try hard, you could do anything.
We should always do our best and put our best effort forward, and that if you put your mind to it, you might achieve.
Had really nice.
In Buxton, Ontario, Magdalene John, 100 Huntley Street.